Hey everyone, Mitch coming in with the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So Wizards has done it again. I mean, okay, they've done a lot of things. So I guess me saying that doesn't really give any context as to what they did again. It could be a good thing, could be a very, very bad thing, which they've done many of those. Regardless, what they did is they created yet another exclusive commander that you and I will probably never, ever, 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 ever own or see in person. That being said, well, even though this product was not made for you or me, we can just proxy it. And it's a pretty cool commander. So yeah, with all that said, let's jump into it. So, and I probably should have said this first as well, but this is an MTG.design version of the card. Thank you, MTG.design, for existing. You are an amazing website that helps me with my job, and yeah, I really enjoy utilizing it to create custom cards like this one. Now, that being said, this is not a completely custom card. I just utilized that to actually make this look like, you know, an actual just easily formatted card. The actual image of the real card is incredibly legitimate and was actually, I believe, distributed by people who actually work at Wizards. So yeah, I'm just making it so that we can actually see the card pretty easily. So there you go. This is actually the art for the card as well. Now, Elusen the Giving is a Heroes of the Realm card, which is cards that are made in very small quantities and given to Wizards employees or former Wizards employees for one reason or another. So yeah, again, it's a very, very small quantity given out not for purchase. That being said, those that have them could sell them, I guess, on the secondary market for probably a good amount. That being said, again, if you or I wants to play with this, just proxy it. Okay, so it's a 4/4 Angel Advisor for 4 mana in total, every color but black, so red, green, white, and blue. Flying, Vigilance, Lifelink, Haste. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, the player to your left gains control of Elusen the Giving. Whenever a player donates a permanent to another player, the donating player draws a card, gains 1 life, and creates 3 treasure tokens. You know, Wizards with their treasures. They absolutely love those these days. Goodness gracious, Wizards, slow down the treasures. Now, Elusen the Giving seems like a very interesting commander. Again, you don't see too many 4-color commanders. I think Wizards' reasoning for that is it's really hard to do things that are within 4-color identities, but like completely exclude the other and like don't do that. So we typically don't see that. That being said, we have seen a couple lately, I guess, like Aragorn. Regardless, yeah, it's a very interesting design and one that definitely harkens back to another commander that we'll talk about here in a little bit, because I'll talk about some cards that work well in the deck, and of course that commander does work well in this deck. This is a commander that says, hey, you know what? Just give things away, and when you do, you shall receive the greatest reward. No, not happiness from just, you know, doing something nice, but hey, happiness from drawing cards, gaining life, and making treasures. Money! Wizards, right? So essentially, yes, this is a commander that you are going to be utilizing a lot of donate type cards. And there's kind of a question on this too, because it does say whenever a player donates a permanent to another player. I don't think I've ever seen the word donate, and actually I did a Scryfall search on it. The word donate has never actually been on a card, or donates or whatever, essentially. It's not an actual term or mechanic or keyword in Magic, so it's kind of, I'm not going to say flimsy, but it's a little up to interpretation potentially as to what this means until we get the actual, you know, ruling on it, though I don't know if we really do. Do we get rulings on these Heroes of the Realm cards? We probably do. But yes, this, again, obviously, if you utilize a donate card where it's like, hey, target player gains control of this card, then yeah, you probably would get the donate effect, I would assume, and get that trigger. But like, what about exchanging? Because technically with like exchanging cards, you're kind of also giving them something. You're getting something back in return. So you are donating a permanent to another player, and they're donating one to you. So exchanging, does that count or not? That's kind of, again, a weird fuzzy line right now, I would say, but I'm gonna go with my gut assumption, which would say you would actually get that. So we shall see. And then there's other weird ones like, okay, like if I threaten one of your creatures and gain control of it temporarily and then give it back to you at the end of the turn, it's not really donating, I guess, even though you're kind of exchanging control to another. It's not really donating because it wasn't like of their choice to give it to you. I really don't know. Again, that's very specific. We'll have to see. Rules lawyers out there, please let me know if you've seen a ruling on this so far, and yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on this. That being said, it's an interesting commander. Again, it is one that says, hey, okay, you are exchanging control of it, so that's pretty cool. You're giving it to everyone. It does have flying, so that is a way for it to get through on players, which is nice because, yeah, you can definitely see someone, being like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, you gave me your commander. I don't really have any use for it, and I want to take it out, so I'm just going to swing it at another player and hopefully take it out, or, have them block. Obviously, that will probably get through on most opponents. There might be someone that's got a good amount of flyers, like the Dragon deck over there. That being said, you can make deals, and of course, you can utilize some cards to ensure that this sticks around. And there's one very specific one I want to mention here in a little bit because, yeah, this could definitely be one that your opponent's like, yeah, let's just get rid of this. Yeah, your shenanigans are crazy because, obviously, the amount of, again, you're going to be building around this. Your opponents will not be, most likely. The amount of value you can get out of donating is absurd. Again, drawing a card, 1 life, meh. Drawing and making 3 treasure tokens is crazy. 3 treasure tokens is just absurd. It's probably going to pay for whatever effect you just paid for to actually donate that card. Yeah, that's going to be quite good, obviously. A very good card to build around. Again, if you are going to be building around this one, if you are excited about this one, well, first up, there's a card list link in the description below for every single card I talk about on this episode. And yeah, if you're interested in picking up some of those cards to work around it, yeah, go for it. You might want to ask your playgroup ahead of time, though, because kind of like technically on these, although the rules committee really hasn't made like an actual ruling on this. They have like said some things in the past where it's like, yeah, of course, players who have these kinds of cards can play with them as their commander. I don't know if they're technically really legal in Commander, though, because they're not really actually printed cards like in packs or in actual products. But yeah, I mean, if your playgroup is okay with it, ask them ahead of time. And then, yeah, go ahead, proxy this card and utilize it as a commander against a very spicy commander, one that does something pretty unique. That being said, with all that said, let's jump into the cards that I would recommend building around this commander. And let's start things off in the budget buys, cards that are less than $1. Actually, I think with these, I even stuck with 50 cents, which I've been doing a lot lately. I really enjoy kind of challenging those budgets further and further and further. And one that you definitely want to consider is something like Assault Suit, a 10-cent card, which is well worth it for this deck. And equipment for 4 mana, 3 to equip, +2/+2, haste, can attack, or you or planeswalkers you control can't be sacrificed. A lot of good things going here. Number one, a little bit of pump, which is nice for this commander because, well, it's going to help you hit harder, number one, with it. Also protect it in combat for when your opponents get it and swing with it. It also can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, which is nice, so it protects you. Most importantly, though, it can't be sacrificed. And also, it does say at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, may have the player get control of the equipped creature until out of turn, which is kind of funny, too. So, I mean, it works kind of the same way as your commander already does, but can't be sacrificed is huge because, yeah, the second that you have your commander in play and it goes into control of the aristocrats player, they're going to be like, oh, thanks for the creature fodder, sacrifice for value. So yeah, you're going to want to make sure that you've got this as well, maybe some other ways to ensure that your commander cannot be sacrificed, or that you can maybe just keep gaining control of it again and again and again to ensure that you actually don't, give it up to a player that's just going to keep it, or not keep it, but get rid of it in that kind of a way. Next up, obviously cards like Harmless Offering are going to be huge. Sorcery for 3 mana until target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. Now again, yeah, I assume this is what donating really is, because this is basically what donating is, right? Giving an opponent control of something. Again, we need to see the actual rules. Lawyers out there, please help out on this one, because I don't think donating is the actual mechanic or keyword we've ever heard of before. We need the specifics on that. We'll talk about another card here in a bit. I'm not sure that works, but I'm pretty positive this one works, because if not, what would this commander really be doing? Moving on, Zedru the Great Heart. This is one I kind of alluded to earlier. And yeah, Zedru is a crazy fun commander, depending on the group that you're with and depending on how you play it. 2/4 Minotaur Monk for 4 mana in total. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards with X number of permanents you own that your opponents control. That is massive, obviously, for this commander because, hey, you're going to be donating a good amount of your permanents, and all of a sudden, you're gaining an absurd amount of life, drawing an absurd amount of cards for your opponents having your permanents, so even more value than you already had. On top of that, and this is where it pairs incredibly well, ridiculously well, in fact, pay red, white, and blue. Target opponent gets 12 target permanent you control. Now, I'm sure there's some infinite shenanigans that could pretty easily happen here. I assume. Again, you're making 3 treasure tokens each time you donate something, essentially, so you're paying for that. So I guess technically you could just give away your entire board, though, of course, there are ways to double up those tokens that you're making even more treasure tokens. So yeah, even if you just had 1 token doubler, I guess, in play, and we'll talk about one here in a bit, you make 6 treasure tokens, and then you donate 1 of them to an opponent, and then you do it again, and again, and again, I guess with an upper threshold for infinite, being the number of cards in your library. technically. Though, obviously, if you have ways to shuffle your hand back in your library or whatnot, like Time Twister type effects to do it again and again and again, you keep doing that infinitely with infinite mana. Yeah, this is a crazy good card in the 99 for this deck, of course. Moving on. Wrong Turn. Now, this is where it's kind of weird as well. Again, Wrong Turn, instant for 3 mana. Target opponent against control target creature. So again, obviously, if it's like yours, you're donating it, but you could also donate for someone else as well. So if it's like their turn and they control your commander and you're doing that to donate it, then yeah, they get the effect too. So there could be some obviously good politics that you can utilize with this. Some good like, hey, buddy, yeah, do you want to donate something? Cool, all right. But they're probably like, wait, no, don't give away my best thing. You're like, no, don't worry about it. You get to draw a card, gain a life, and get 3 treasures. You're welcome. So yeah, again, this kind of a card where it's like a donating effect, but also like a forced donation. Does that count? Because it's not like them actually choosing to give it away. I don't know. Moving on, Role Reversal. This again is one that I talked about before. Sorcerer, 3 mana total. Exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a permanent type. Again, do exchanges count? Does that count as a donation? My gut says probably. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like against the actual probably premise of the card that's like, oh, it's friendly. Although like no donation commanders I've ever seen really in practice have ever been friendly because of bad gifts that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's kind of like a double donation, right? You're giving them something, they're giving you something, like a white elephant gift essentially. Yeah, just, hey, yeah, here's this random thing. Here, you give me that random thing. They share a permanent type. Cool. Maybe I exchange, my tiny little 1/1 soldier token for your Blightsteel Colossus, and I got a value out of that, and so did you. Good for you. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. Or you have more specific donations like Humble Defector. This one's a self-donation card. Eddie loves this card. Play Eddie in the comments below. 2/1 Human Rogue for 2 mana. Tap, draw 2 cards. Target opponent gains 12 Humble Defector. Activate only during your turn. A pretty fun card to essentially say, yeah, hey, cool, let's make a deal, me and you. Let's just keep swapping this back and forth. Drawing 2 cards each. We'll get some extra value out of that because of my commander. And when you have it too, you can do that as well. So yeah, a pretty interesting card. Or a Crow and Horse. Enters the battlefield, opponent gains control of it. I don't know if that would count as a donation because I don't know if it was ever really under your control. Again, like, you're just playing it and enters under an opponent's control. So I don't think that's technically a donation, though it could be. I don't know. Again, rules lawyers out there, please, please, please help me out with this because, yeah, it's an interesting card. Also, I mean, even if not a token generator like this could be pretty helpful for you to be able to dish out tokens to opponents. Again, donating just a 1/1 soldier is not a big deal. And this one says beginning of upkeep, each opponent makes a 1/1 soldier essentially. So yeah, the player that has this gets nothing but a 0/4 horse, and all the opponents of them, including you, are going to be getting soldiers. Next up, Coveted Jewel. Again, this is kind of another weird one where it's like, okay, it's kind of a donation, but not. Enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, tap for 3 mana of any one color, a spicy mana rock. But with a slight downside, whenever one or more creatures' opponent controls attack you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards, gains control of it, untap it. Again, this isn't like a donation per se, because they're just like stealing it from you, but technically control switches, and it is from you to an opponent, so again, does that count? I have no idea. So yeah, we shall see kind of what this new world of donation is, and if we'll ever see, donating on other cards as well as like an actual mechanic or keyword, we shall see. Yeah, but when it comes to these kinds of decks, yeah, typically they're going to be bad gifts decks. Aggressive Mining, a card like this is just brutal. In enchantment for 4 mana, you can't play lands. Yep, that's a thing. Sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards, activate once each turn. Essentially, again, this for you is very, very bad. Most players will never play this card because not being able to play lands is huge. I mean, unless it's like late game and you're like, okay, cool, I'd rather just get card draw out of it. But the way this works with a donation deck like Zedru or now this one is you're like, okay, I get to play. You get it now. Yay! I get to draw a card, gain a life, get 3 treasure tokens, and you can never play lands again until you deal with this. So you better start sacrificing lands, drawing cards, and hoping you get some removal for that. If not, you are shut down. Good for you. So yeah, that is a pretty mean effect. And of course, there's some finishers as well in bad gifts like 9 lives. Enchantment for 3 mana total, hexproof. Lovely, can't be dealt with really, except for, like board wipes. If a source deal damage to you, prevent the damage from an incarnation counter on this. When there are 9 or more incarnation counters on it, exile it. When it leaves the game, you lose the game. Basically, you keep this around for a little bit potentially, especially if you have something like Zedru in play and you can just dish it whenever you need to. And being like, okay, cool, all right, I've got 8 counters on it. I just prevented a lot of damage myself. That's lovely. Hey, opponent over there. I got a present for you. Here, take 9 lives. It's all yours. Thank you. I get to draw a card, gain 1 life, and make 3 treasure tokens because I am such a nice person that I donated that. Oh, wait, I'm going to attack you with my commander. Okay, my commander took you out. Oh, I mean, didn't take you out, but it hit you another time. The damage got prevented. You got another counter on it. Then that got eggs out. And now you're gone. Yay, everybody wins, except for you. So yeah, there are definitely some mean things that you can do with bad gifts. And yeah, the price of your picks, we've got even more. Moving on, we've got the price your picks cards that are more than $1 and one that is just barely over $1. Just barely. Steel Golem. For $1.17, a 3/4 artifact creature golem for 3 mana. You can't play creature spells. Yep. Okay, that's the thing. So basically, yeah, I mean, you get a 3/4 for 3 mana. Wow, that's definitely worth that downside. Not at all. But when you have a donation deck where you're like, yeah, let's give that to the green player over there. It's playing Stompy, and they don't have many non-creature spells, so they're in trouble. Again, you donate this, and they are probably shut down for quite a while, if not, again, the rest of the game. If you're playing against, like, oh, gosh, is it Nikya? Which one of the commanders is like, yeah, you literally can't cast non-creature spells, so many players just building all creatures around it. That might be it. So yeah, you can just completely shut down a certain deck or like really hamper a deck with just something like this, and then everyone else is going to agree to like not block this in combat and take it out. So yeah, that player is pretty much done. Speaking of done, Illusions of Grandeur, a really spicy card with amazing art. I love that. Enchant for 4 mana. Keep it up, keep 2. Enters the battlefield. You gain 20 life. When it leaves the battlefield, you lose 20. Now, why this is good is, I mean, previously it was like, oh, it's a temporary boost of 20 life. Cool. But now with donation cards, obviously, it's like, oh, okay, no, it's not a temporary boost. It's like, okay, I gain 20 for 4 mana. Good for me. And then I donate it to you, and you're on the hook for when that leaves play. So if anyone ever deals with that, you lose 20 life, which can be game ending for a player. And again, you got a benefit of drawing a card, gaining a life, and 3 treasures for doing that. Moving on, Transcendence. This is going to be a bit riskier because it does require some setup. Enchantment for 6 mana. You don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. When you have 20 or more life, you lose the game. When you lose life, you gain 2 life for each 1 life lost. Kind of like 9 lives. Again, another kind of like win condition for this deck potentially. You need to have less than 20 life to essentially even get this in play, or you just lose. So don't do that. But essentially, when this is in play, you can either accrue life by losing life, or yeah, just donate it to a player that happens to have more than 20 life, and all of a sudden they are gone. So it kind of reverses the rules of Magic in that, like, hey, life is not good, life is bad, you're out. So yeah, a very, very, very good card to donate. Moving on, if you have $219.28 lying around, Gilded Drake. But again, that might actually not even work. Let's discuss it again. It's a 3/3 flyer for 2 mana. So yeah, I mean, for the time, it was like, hey, cool, wow, 2 mana, 3/3 flyer. Wow, that's incredibly powerful. That being said, enters the battlefield, exchange control of it and target creature one opponent controls. So essentially, it's a 2 mana swap creature spell. And again, does a swap actually mean donating? We don't know yet, I guess, or maybe we do, and I just haven't been able to find that. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Next up, Crown of Doom. They need to reprint this card. I love this card. It is so spicy and so good for Commander. An artifact for 3. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you get +0 until end of turn. Pay 2, target player other than the owner of this card essentially gains control of it. So, hey, what's going to happen is you get this in play, and then you donate it so nicely to someone else. And then anytime that player is attacked, the creatures that attack them get a nice boost of, again, 2 power. That being said, now the other players are like, oh, I need to get rid of it because I have it and I don't want it. Okay, give it to someone else, but they can't give it back to you because you are the owner of it, so they're just going to be donating it. So this is one where it's like, okay, you can kind of play around with, again, like your opponents are getting value out of donating it, so keep that in mind. And actually, does this just go infinite? Activates ability only during your turn. Okay, good. It's only during their turn. I forgot about that. If not, I guess it would have just gone infinite for your opponents. Probably, right? Because they just keep donating it back and forth to each other and getting the treasures. So, yeah, pretty interesting, though. Moving on, Bazaar Trader, a way to repeatedly donate things. A 1/1 goblin for 2 mana. Tap target player against full target artifact creature land you control. So again, a nice way to say, hey, take my steel golem. Why not? Yeah, a great way to just get that. Moving on, Puka's Mischief. Again, if exchanges work, cards like this can be great. Enchantment for 4 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, may exchange control target non-land permanent you control. Target non-land permanent opponent controls with equal or lesser mana cost. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's certain things like Transcendence that cost 6, and you're like, yeah, I don't want that anymore. You have it. And then you take like a really good card like, hey, cool, yeah, give me your awesome card. I guess you would probably just lose control of it, though, because that player would probably be gone if you give them Transcendence. That being said, yeah, a repeatable way to, again, we'll see if this is technically a donation, but exchange could be great for this deck. Moving on, Annoying Procession. I kind of already referenced this card. Yeah, if you got $45 lying around, cool. Annoying Procession. Enchantment for 4 mana. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice as many tokens instead. Obviously, any of these kind of token doubling effects, parallel lives, doubling season, etc., 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 could fill this slot as well, or you just have all of them. And again, keep in mind, like the new one, Overpowered, that one only doubles or triples creature tokens, so keep that in mind. But the doublers that double everything, including the treasures you're making, can obviously be game-breakingly good. Every single time you donate one thing, you get 6 treasures. My goodness, that's going to be hard to deal with. And also, of course, I believe I said earlier, could probably go infinite that Zedru, essentially. Moving on to Fairies Aegis Insight. Yep. I mean, this is a card that I brought up an absurd amount of times on quick takes because Wizards keeps making commanders that draw cards. One way or another. Legendary enchantment for 4 mana. If you draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Very, very, very good. Basically a cheaper Thought Reflection. Not price-wise, but mana value-wise. It doesn't apply to your, first draw on the turn like your card draw, but that's fine because you're just doubling everything else. So it's a fantastic card. Works incredibly well, obviously, with this one because you're going to be drawing 1 card, but now instead you're going to be drawing 2. So it'd be 2 cards, 1 life, and 3 treasures. Or if you got, another procession play, 6 treasures. Cool. Being able to get an absurd amount of value out of everything you do with this kind of a deck. But now this episode is coming to a close. It's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this one. If you are a rules lawyer out there, please let me know what the specifics, if you've heard so far, on what donating a permanent specifically means. Does that include like forced donations? Like, hey, that player gives that player that. Or exchanges? Does that count? Or is it just like basically harmless offering or the donate card or like Zedru type effects are the other ones that count? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you are interested again in this commander, yeah, there might be some secondary out there, essentially, market for it. I haven't seen anything online yet of where it's being sold. I mean, I think the Wizards employees are probably just getting them now and maybe haven't put them online yet if they are willing to sell them. But yeah, just proxy it. Just proxy it. It's a very cool commander, a very cool design. Ask your playgroup first if they're okay with you proxying it and playing it. And then, yeah, sure, check out that card list link in the description below and consider picking up some of those cards. And of course, with all that said, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.